So we've dove into some of the challenges here. What was something that kind of surprised you? Be it about the challenges or just being on the show, or something you just didn't expect as you kind of went through this gambit of Lego challenges.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think a pleasant surprise was just the amount of feedback we got from the Brickmasters. So, watching Lego Masters on TV, you really only get to see maybe in an episode a couple minutes of them stopping by a couple different tables. But honestly, during the challenges, they would stop by and talk to us at our table for five, maybe not quite, but almost 10 minutes sometimes.
Hello, bricks, chicks, and minifigures. You are listening to AFOLs Welcome, where we talk about all things Lego from the perspective of two adult collectors. We're your co-host. I'm Grinch.
And I'm West.
And today we have a special guest appearance from Lego Masters Season 5 contestant himself, Luke Horwath. But before we get into that, West, let's banter over some bricks. How was your week?
It was a good week, Grinch. And I'm really looking forward to this interview tonight. I think it's going to be a great one.
Well, my week was also good. And it finally happened to me. Do you know what happened?
Did you finally get the set that you've been promising everybody that you would pick up?
I did. However, that's not the exciting news. The exciting news is that I got two of them, one of them for free.
Oh, how'd you get one for free?
It's this life hack, life pro tip alert. Maybe I should make a TikTok on this because it's a joke. That's a joke when you hear the story. But I feel like I've seen so many dumb TikToks like that where like people are like, "Oh, just do this to get free Lego sets."
Like life hack, if you take it and walk out of the store.
If you order enough Lego, eventually the warehouse will get something wrong and send you 2 times the number of sets they're supposed to.
Oh.
Yeah. So as you know, it was my birthday at an undisclosed date the past couple of months/years. And I got some Lego from our mother for my birthday, of course, classic. And she put an order in on lego.com. She actually used my account to give me the VIP points. She's the real VIP. I mean, she's the real MVP for that. And Lego sent me, I got a box that had everything, the receipt was in it. So I knew the packing slip was there. I knew what was supposed to be in it. And then of course I just checked my Lego account because I was like, huh? And then I got another box, and that's when I checked the Lego account just to make sure like one wasn't a packing slip versus like an order invoice, and they just sent me a whole box of all of the sets again.
So like all of your Lego order got doubled.
Correct. Except for one set, which was the Winter Village Holiday Train. But there was also the S2000 in there. There was the Galactus Fantastic Four set. And then there was like a few gift with purchases. So everything else got doubled. So it was funny because I was actually, we're doing this mock building contest. And so I was going to go to the store to just like pick up a small set. That was like exciting. Mm-hmm. And then I got a second one of that Disney gift with purchase. And I was like, oh, this would actually be perfect. Like, I feel like this is a desirable, interesting gift with purchase.
Yeah.
So, friend, if you want an S2000, I can bring one to you.
I won, and fingers crossed, Lego will ship you two.
No, if you want one.
Oh, I see. I mean, I won't say no.
But will you say yes? Oh, okay. So yeah, that happened to me. So life pro tip, if you order enough Lego, eventually the warehouse will mess up and send you an extra order.
Nice.
Yeah. One time I saw one that was like, flight tip. If your flight gets canceled, sometimes they'll rebook you and, they'll give you a voucher, and you're like, okay. it's not a tip, and it's definitely not pro. So yeah, that was my my exciting news there.
Nice. Well, I did want to share something. It doesn't necessarily have to do with Lego, but I wanted to shout out just kind of a general creator on Instagram. I've been following them for like a little bit now, and they do some really cool things. And so I want to pull their tag, their Instagram handle up here, but they're called Bunta Modeling. And Grinch, I think I've talked to you about them, but it's like a model builder, right? But I don't know who they are. They specialize in building N1 starfighters from episode 1 primarily, but they do them in different racing themes. And so you'll see them do, kind of the base chassis of like an N1 starfighter. They'll repaint the entire thing into kind of different racing colors. They'll build, kind of soup up the engines a little bit, so it looks kind of somewhere in between like the Mandalorian's N1 starfighter from the Book of Boba Fett series and the last season of the Mandalorian, between that and the one we saw in episode 1. And what's really cool is like all of the manufacturer stickers on there and part stickers and sponsors are all kind of nods to like the larger Star Wars canon and lore. And they just look so cool. And they're totally original. And they do N1 starfighters. She's done a few pod racers. The color schemes are kind of fascinating because they kind of play on different, variations of like Star Wars, paint schemes and stuff that we see on like helmets and whatnot. But Bunta Modeling is the handle on Instagram. Really fun follow, and just really inspires me to like think beyond the standard Star Wars box and envelope, right? Like, and so seeing somebody take something like that, repurpose it, I just think that's so cool. And we talked about this on our Star Wars episode, but like that's what I think Lego could do. I think Lego could do something like that and just absolutely crush it. So anyways, I just wanted to shout that out as kind of a cool alternative to some content on Instagram.
All right. Well, speaking of cool content, West, why don't you take us through this week's news?
Exciting Lego news.
Alrighty, so let's talk exciting Lego news. So first up, Lego announced the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Ganon set teaser that should be coming sometime in 2026. We had some reveals of 3 new Lego botanical sets to be released in 2026 in January. The Lego Regional Distribution Center in Virginia has broken ground. And so instead of receiving sets from just Romeoville, Illinois, you should be able to get sets now from Virginia, which is exciting. There is a vendor stand gift with purchase Lego Ideas contest going on through December 10th. You can go over to the Lego Ideas page to apply to that if you would like. And then lastly, on our last episode, we announced a mock building contest with us and Wilderland Bricks to see if people could build kind of updated versions of the Lego Adventures theme. I don't think we really added any other caveats onto that other than, it has to be set in the Johnny Thunder universe, but whatever you want, kind of an update, cool take on that universe is totally up for grabs. So we'll have like a panel of the 2 of us and Wilderland Bricks, and we will pick a winner on December 11th. And to play, all you got to do is post a picture on Instagram, tag us in it, and we'll see it, and it'll be in the contest. So, Grinch, what's exciting this week?
I'm sure there's a lot of excited Zelda fans. I would be one of them if I were like a super Zelda fan. I don't know why. That was never an IP that did it for me. It's not that I didn't like Nintendo or anything. I just never gravitated towards it. But I know there's a lot of people that are fans, and we have a friend who knows of Lego existing and loves Zelda. And the last time they texted me, which he texts me often, but the last time he texted me about Lego specifically was to comment on the last Lego Zelda set. So I'll have to make sure they're aware of that set because I'm sure they're excited. But otherwise, yeah, excited to see some submissions for our mock building contest. That's the first time we've trying something like that. And otherwise, I think probably the next biggest news is the botanicals. Another good wave of botanicals. I like this flowering cactus build quite a bit. I think it's just a clean, well-designed cacti. And I like how they I think the pot was a good choice. Overall, I think this is a really good, piece of horticulture for Lego, right, as a medium. And yeah, what about you?
Yeah, so I mean, you and I aren't historically Zelda fans, so I very much concur of like I'm excited to see it. Love this continued collaboration with kind of the larger Nintendo universe to include we are expecting Pokemon next year, so seeing Zelda expand beyond one set is exciting. When that set came out originally, we were like, hey, this could be the sign. We've gotten the Mario collaboration, we've gotten the consoles, we've seen Zelda. Like, what else within the Nintendo kind of larger portfolio is available? And sure enough, we got our Pokemon announcement about a year or so later. So that was really cool. So it's just awesome to see kind of continued collaboration between Lego and Nintendo. I really feel like that's a fruitful combination. The botanicals are as always wonderful. Just Lego's continuing to just pump out some awesome botanical sets. The Peace Lily looks great. I really also do like the flowering cactuses. Those are kind of fun. And I like how, they look like the little cactus set that they've already released kind of in the succulents build that they had. And it's more or less the same thing, but it's just, different and bigger. And it's one of the cool things about the botanical line is, they had the original bonsai tree, and then we got the Japanese maple bonsai tree, and they're both just wonderful sets. So it's awesome to see them kind of continue, even though like it might feel a little bit like a retread. It's still fresh, and they're always doing more and more to sort of revamp the series. So returning to kind of familiar stuff there doesn't feel like it's getting stale at all. So that's kind of cool.
The flowers aren't wilting on you yet.
No, it's staying fresh. I did want to comment on our competition. We are doing that for real, right? And yeah, we haven't done this before, so that's really exciting. I'm just excited with this. Grinch, are you building anything just for fun, kind of in the spirit of the competition?
Yeah, we have to. Them the rules.
So I don't know if you want to kind of share or what's going on, but I just think this is really fun. We've had so much positive feedback about like the Adventurers line, and revisiting this, I think this will be a really fun one to explore and see what the larger community can create.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to share what I'm building, only because I don't want somebody to be like, oh, I was going to do that and then not do it. So one of the things I wanted to mention was these daisies, and every once in a while there's something kind of small that'll bother you about like a build. The one thing I'll say is the little, and I don't know enough about flowers to tell you what flower it is. It may be lavender or something. There's that purple flowering plant. That's about as technical as I'm going to get on it. That uses the larger kind of floral sunflower piece in, what is that, violet or dark purple? And then it uses the newer flowering stem piece, kind of a tulipy open rose type of piece, just kind of your open generic flower, in a medium purple. And then it uses that really light purple for a smaller traditional flower piece. That looks excellent. That looks really good. The other part of the daisy itself,
yeah,
uses that newer 3-leafed plant piece. That's kind of like a longer version of that 3-leaf plant piece that we've had.
Right.
It may be a combination of like that bamboo piece and then the plated 3-leaf piece, just elongated, stretched out. I think it's like 2 or 3 plates long as far as a piece goes. I think overall with the little stud attachment, it's 3.
Mhm.
My problem with it is that piece curves downwards. So if it were upright, if it were positioned on a stud facing upright or the correct way up, it would from the stud part it would slope down slightly. And the daisies don't correct that. So it was built in a way that that all of the flower petals slope downwards. And I just feel like it's a missed opportunity to just really show off some techniques, especially now that there's an inverted tile piece and stuff like that, to at least have attempted to reverse that and flip those plant pieces upside down so that the petals were kind of facing up and in slightly. Because naturally, when you see a daisy, this is kind of the point where it's starting to wilt. I mean, this is when I look at this, I'm like, oh, those are about to fall off. Now, for the photos of it doesn't look that bad, but the one on the middle top of the actual box, you can kind of see if you look at an image of it or you look at the box, you can see I'm talking about how they're kind of sloping down. I feel like it would have been a real easy, and I shouldn't say easy, but it would have been a nice part usage to have actually flipped those up, flip those around so that they were pointing and kind of sloping towards towards the sun, right? Because typically a flower is going to point towards the sun and position itself in a more favorable angle towards the sun, which would not be sloped downwards.
You know how they could have done it is using one of those inverted tile pieces that has the bubble. I forget that there were the sliders on all the old sets.
Oh, there's a new inverted 2x2 round tile piece that they could easily use. Yeah, there really is.
So I
think they had the squared one. There's a round one now.
Okay, I didn't know they did a round one. I think this is the 3x3 tile though, circular tile.
Maybe that's why.
I think that's why that's the only limitation. But that is a great eye, Grinch. I did not see that and think through that enough of kind of connecting it. And you make an interesting connection to the fact that, like, yeah, that's this plant at this point with its leaves in this direction or the petals is effectively like wilting and dying. So it's kind of an odd inclusion to include it that way. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be fun to see if there's a way to invert it. I mean, for $15 though, I think of all of these new botanical lines, that one kind of crushes it. Like, what a great steal,
Yeah, and I'm not a botanical expert by any means. I'm not even close. But is this the first one that's come with like a insect piece with it? Because there's a little ladybug tile there, and I
think it is.
I don't know the line well enough to tell you for sure or not.
I think it is. I think that is the first one. And the botanicals are weird because there's a few creator sets that were also flowers that were not officially botanical sets, but are more or less botanical sets. So I know Lego's still kind of working things out. So, yeah, good eye. I did want to say, right, so we've gotten a few, reveals and release updates on stuff for January. Things we're still waiting on. Right, we're still waiting on information on the newest modular building. We still haven't gotten official Star Wars reveals yet. I don't believe we've gotten city reveals. If I'm mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. So some interesting stuff that we should expect here in the next few weeks, especially as we enter in here in the United States into Thanksgiving week and weekend. We should start to get more information about all of that, and hopefully in early December, that information about the modular building. Grinch, I know obviously we aren't going to comment on any sort of rumors that are out there. I can say that I've only seen 1 or 2, so even the rumor side of things has been pretty mum, which is odd because this time last year I think we had quite a few rumors on what became the Tudor Corner. We know based off of the corner every third building that this is not going to be a corner building. So I know, what do you think? I mean, any thoughts of what would be a great inclusion for a modular building this year?
Well, I've seen the leaks, so no comment on my end.
Okay. Well, I'll just say I'm always a huge fan of, I think, more residential. So, but I yes, that would be what I would prefer and like to see eventually. So, anyways, Grinch, any final thoughts on the news this week?
Well, West, you know what I like to see? Lego Masters. So why don't we get Luke up in the pod?
Yeah, let's call him over. Luke, come on.
Today's topic.
For today's topic, we are scaling things up, 1 Luke tall to be exact, as we welcome to the show Lego Masters Season 5 contestant Luke Horwath and dive into what it's like taking on the building challenges side by side with his mom on TV's most thrilling Lego competition show. Welcome to the podcast, Luke. It's great to have you on.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's really, really a big pleasure being here. I appreciate you taking the time.
Well, we joked about it up front, but I do have to say, Luke, you are very tall in person. I chatted with you at, what was it, Brick World Chicago. I saw you. I think we chatted online, and I was like, hey, I'd love to have you pod. And I was like walking through the convention hall in Schaumburg. I was like, that guy must be Luke.
Yeah, it's definitely something I get a lot, and that was made even all the more evident by being partnered up with my mom, who isn't really short by any means, but she's around 5'6", maybe 5'7" on a good day, and I'm right around 6'5" or 6'6". So seeing the almost foot height discrepancy is pretty crazy, but we are indeed related.
And it's I think unofficially stuck with you now. I think it's forever ingrained in your Lego cultural impact here as being 1 Luke tall. So
yeah, to have a measurement named after me, and especially applicable to Lego, is a pretty big honor. It's a tall honor, one might say, and it's super cool. Something that I've kept with me even after filming the show.
And I think it's good because, unironically, unlike Kale Scale, for example, you were successful. I mean, you got it 1 Luke tall, and I think you won that challenge, right? Where it was the height challenge.
Yeah, that's right. Episode 2, the wedding cake challenge, was undoubtedly one of my favorites personally, and I think one of my mom and I as a team, our favorites as well. Initially hearing all the details about it being a beautiful wedding cake and the love story of 2 minifigures, I was getting a little worried. But as soon as height was brought into the equation and the fact that it could be an instant key to safety, that's all my brain was willing to think about from then on. And not only did we go 1 Luke tall, but we went even taller. The spire itself surpassed 1 Luke tall, and then the entire cake standing at a colossal 9-foot 1 inch tall, being the tallest build on Lego Masters US ever in all 5 seasons, I think is absolutely incredible and something that we were super proud of.
Well, close to a Luke and a half at that point. So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I did enjoy when you guys brought it onto the stage, how you had to like very carefully make sure you weren't scraping the ceiling. I mean, that's when you really know you're at the, the true, pinnacle of your building experience there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you enjoyed it because it was one of the most terrifying moments of my entire life. And I think my mom would say the same, probably Maya and Jamie as well. The entrance to the gallery in that challenge is 10 feet tall. And we did not know how tall our cake was going into the gallery. And so that's why we were carrying it and then had to back up. Try it again, back up. Okay, now get lower and scooch on the ground. And between the spacing of the thickness of the wood, the fingers, and the knees on the ground, I mean, we barely cleared that entrance to the gallery. And just a little a fun behind the scenes that I'll throw in as well, just because you mentioned the tension of that moment. So in the episode, you can see that I'm locked arms with my mom and Maya during judging. That wasn't for dramatic effect. That wasn't for, it's to show our team camaraderie. It's because I was this close to passing out. I was absolutely terrified, relieved, so many emotions running through me that I said to Mom and Maya, you got to hold me up right now because I don't know if I'm going to make it.
Oh, wow.
before we started recording, for the listeners, we were just kind of chatting about life, and we talked about school and engineering, and I didn't take a lot of engineering courses, but I did take a couple physics, and there was always those really annoying questions that were like, oh, in this part of the world, they use, a weird yardstick called a whatever, and it actually measures this much. So this physicist gave you this measurement in that. One of these days, some AFOL out there is going to be writing a test for their physics class, and they're going to say, on Lego Master Season 5, Luke was, 6'5" and built a tower that was, 10 feet tall. How many Luke's tall was that?
I can only hope and honestly apologize to students in the future for having making you do one more unit conversion. But trust me, if you go back and watch the episode, it'll be worth it. I promise.
So I think that's a good reminder. So typically, Luke, what we'll do with our guests is say, get to know a little bit about them. But I would encourage listeners to go check out Lego Master Season 5, because there's so much that was said about you and your mom on that show. I don't think we could necessarily do it better or cover something that wasn't said. So for time, I'd love to just talk about your experience on the show. But before we get into that, just wanted to ask you, where can people find you, social media, that sort of thing, if they want to check out more of your work and get to know you a little bit better?
Yeah, thanks for asking. The best place to find me and my mom too is at Luke99 Studios on Instagram. You can see all of our personal projects, a lot of Lego Masters behind the scenes photos, things like that. A lot of cool things like that. So Luke99 Studios on Instagram. That's also the name of my YouTube channel and also my website, which has a little bit more details on some of my projects. So Luke99 Studios on Instagram, YouTube, my website. Always happy to connect, and lots of fun stuff up on those pages.
Nice.
And for all the listeners, we'll make sure that's linked in the episode description, so it's even easier to find for everybody. So Luke, I think let's step back and talk about what kind of went through your mind leading up to the very first challenge. How did you and your mom prepare for the actual show in general once you found out you were on Lego Masters?
Yeah, that's a great question. Once we found out, the first step for me was officially withdrawing from the University of Notre Dame. I was about 7 weeks into my semester, taking classes, exams, doing homework sets, things like that. And then I had to leave, and I couldn't tell anyone where I was going. So all my professors, friends, family were pretty much in the dark. And I said, I'll see you next semester. I'm leaving for something good. So it was a very big secret that I had to keep for about 1.5 years, which is crazy looking back on it now. But my mom and I did prep a little bit beforehand, and a lot of it was just working as a team, continuing that natural mother-son bond that we had, which I think was a big advantage for us going in from a communication perspective and a lifestyle perspective, things like that. But really just being on the same page in terms of using different types of pieces, playing to our strengths, working on that. So our team, I would say, brought the motion, the mechanisms, and the scale to the table. And so we wanted to work on a little bit before, just things like sculptures, storytelling, details, maybe some diorama aspects, things like that. But it was really the one piece of advice I'll give for anyone else who potentially would be preparing for something like this too is understand your strengths, work on your strengths, and also work on your weaknesses. So know your strengths going into this sort of competition, know how in every challenge can you leverage that to your success, but also work on your weaknesses. There's always something that every builder can improve upon. And for us, maybe that was some of those smaller details, landscaping, things like that. And so that's what we carried into our mindset going into the show.
I mean, I imagine you guys in like tracksuits, with like your personal Lego collection and like, somebody else with like a stopwatch and going like time. And, I mean, was it as simple as something like that where you're like literally doing like practice sessions, or was it, was it just more ad hoc kind of building and stuff?
Yeah, it was a little bit of everything. The turnaround time was quick for everything. And so for the vast majority of preparing, I was honestly still in school and taking class. There was a time or two I was able to pop home and my mom and I were able to build with each other. But honestly, it was a lot of individual work. I was still very much locked in on my engineering classes. But my mom, I will say, touched bricks and pieces basically every single day leading up to it, whether that was building a set, whether that was trying a creation of her own. And I think that marriage of our two skill sets and just really trying to be on the same page as much as possible going in was a big part of it.
Did you find that kind of during that process too, you kind of looked at Lego sets a little bit differently as you were maybe sitting down and building like the Lion's Night castle, for example, instead of just building a castle, you were like, well, how did this come together?
Yeah, that's a great point. There were a lot of aspects of preparing, especially through building sets, that were useful going into the show. For one, building sets was always more so of a leisure activity, just in the sense that, oh, sit down, put it together, it's a good time. But now it was very much, okay, what techniques is this set using? Even just every other page would be like, okay, how can I use these pieces on the show? What do they have in the brick pit from just what I remember? Can I emulate this? But also just the way that Lego sets come together in their color and their storytelling, because those are important aspects of a lot of Lego Masters challenges. Is how do you use color well? How can you convey a great story? So even when you're building a Lego set such as a castle, it's how are these minifigures interacting? What's the bigger story that's trying to be told here? And again, just how are things like color making the set pop and drawing your attention to one area or another? So it was much less of a leisure experience and much more so of a learning experience for every set going into the show.
So, Luke, you brought up the brick pit real quick, and I did want to ask, this is my first chance to talk to somebody who's been on the show. Like, is every piece available in the studio, or like, are you still sort of limited to like whatever it is that they have in front of you?
Yeah, it's a lot, but it is limited. So they didn't have every single piece under the sun, and I know at least for us contestants and us builders on the show, there are some strange missing pieces. There are some crazy inclusions. A lot of it comes down to color. So, for instance, some of the bigger pieces, especially in like 2x6, 2x8 bricks, things like that, that were maybe only in a handful of colors. Our personal favorite example to reminisce on is the fact that there were wedge plates in right side, but not left side for some of them, or vice versa. It really just depended on what was really there. They didn't have certain things like the splat gears, things like that were not there. But there, I mean, that was part of the fun too, is in the sense that we have a lot at our disposal, but also not everything, which is it takes a little bit of getting used to, both in the way that everything's laid out. It was very organized, I will say that. But honestly, to this day, if I walked back in there, I would still have no idea where the jumper plates are or the turntables. Thankfully, my mom spent a lot of time in the brick pit, and she'd be able to tell you, but there are some pieces that I still have no idea where they were.
So there was a lot of time kind of leading up to that first, to actually being on the show. And I think when you said, a year and a half, you had to keep the secret, I realized that it's a year and a half because it's probably when the show aired at that point, right? So, I was curious, what emotions ran through your head as you first kind of walked onto that set for the very first time. You'd done all this preparing, you got ready for it, but kind of to add to that, if I may, what was your emotion also seeing that episode for the very first time a year and a half later, kind of being able to talk about and experience it again?
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with walking onto the set for the first time. Absolutely mind blowing. It takes a lot for me to be at a loss of words. And same for my mom. We both are usually never short on words, but wow, walking into that build room for the first time, it's a dream coming true. Ever since we've watched every single episode of Lego Masters US as a family, including my mom and I, and just I'm reliving it in my head right now, and I can tell it's hard to process. I mean, just seeing all those crazy colors, the massive wall of minifigs. I love the 2x4 brick, and just seeing the two enormous just troughs of them in front of you is just absolutely crazy. The huge Lego brick lights going up and down, everything lit up. Then seeing Will Arnett, seeing the Brickmasters, I mean, in person, just absolutely insane. It just incomprehensible to me. It's just unbelievable. And then reliving it, the watching the first episode live, just crazy, because I get to be there and see it again, especially because it was a year and a half since we had filmed. And while I did think about it admittedly every single day since we had filmed, it was still a lot just to see it and go, wow, that was our reaction. That was the reaction of other builders. Just to know that everyone was that genuinely excited to be there is just super special.
Question for you then, and maybe this is a bit of a peek behind the curtain. When you guys are doing like a 12-hour build challenge, for example, I mean, obviously you're given like bathroom breaks and stuff, and those are things that we don't see. Are you guys like grabbing a bite to eat, getting water? Like you mentioned before, like during the build, the wedding cake challenge, almost you know, feeling so excited that you didn't, you know, that you might pass out. Like, I mean, are you guys both pushing yourselves physically and mentally during this time, or what is the cadence that maybe we as the viewers on the outside don't see?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. It is really, really physically demanding, mentally demanding,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally demanding. The filming schedule is just insane. I won't go too far into details, but it is absolutely a haul and a half. Just even finishing one day worth of filming. I mean, very early in the morning, call time, very late at night, getting back. I always say during the episode, use your imagination sort of for what we might need, lunch, things like that. Though interestingly, while the clock is running and we're building, if you need to go to the bathroom, if you need to call a team meeting, if you got to do something else while everyone else is still going, they do not stop the clock for you. So when you see that we have 10 hours for that first challenge, and let's say you have to go to the bathroom an hour in, but we're all still filming, like that's on the clock. So it's very serious in the sense that it's competitive. There's no, oh, we'll spot you a little bit of time here and there. I mean, it's when you see that clock that says 10 hours, that's how much we have to build. And also when you see us scrambling on TV, like, oh, maybe it's just dramatically edited. Like, oh, they can't really be working with a minute left. No, we are. It really is that intense where it's down to the wire the vast majority of the time where we are really scrambling to get those last bricks down every single moment. So I mean, for the viewers watching at home, just picture everything like that, but 10, 20, 30 times more intense, bold, bright, colorful, insane in person. It's incredibly demanding, but definitely worth it.
Yeah, and I feel like too, even if you were, it sounds like you maybe stopped for lunches and stuff like that, right? So I think they have to do some sort of breaks with filming. I think it's required by law, but it's almost a trap, right? Because you get into a creative flow, right? And then if you were to stop halfway through and come back and be like, oh, I've got all these great ideas, like, yeah, but now you have half the time and you're kind of
Yeah.
already committed down one thing, right? You're already one Luke tall. You can't
Yeah.
can't pivot and go three Lukes tall with half the amount of time. You gotta kind of stick with the original plan. Did you ever find that to be a struggle?
That's a good question. My mom and I personally spent a lot of time, well, at least relatively speaking to some other teams, a lot of time planning up front. We
Mm.
believed heavily in our brainstorming process. This is something we had talked about intentionally beforehand, in the sense that during every challenge, we would each obviously hear the brief, run over to our table, get going. But before we did anything, before we really even started talking to each other, we both brainstormed individually to come up with our own different sets of ideas for at least a few minutes. And then we would start talking and sharing with each other to start bouncing ideas. That made it so that we didn't overcommit to someone's idea too quickly, in the sense that we never had to make any major pivots throughout any of our challenges, because we spent a lot of time individually planning and thinking up front and then collaboratively talking through it, in the sense that we were able to bring the best of both of our ideas together. And so, for instance, that's how the sloth idea came to be in episode 3, is that we ended up with Sylvester the Sloth hugging a beehive, falling asleep. That was not just from one person. I know I had maybe initially suggested the sloth, but my mom said, we need some sort of funny aspect to our story. Like, what would be pretty wild? And she's like, well, sloths usually grab trees. It's like, okay, well, how can we change that? How about a beehive? And so things just naturally snowball from there when we initially come up with our individual ideas and then share those together as a team. So that was our process, and I was very happy with how it worked.
Well, I think you guys really succeeded with that. And we've seen in the past where teams kind of fall apart and struggle. And I mean, at least from the outside, right? When you see an episode where a team gets halfway through the episode and then they make a big pivot, you're like, oh, this is the episode they get eliminated. It's usually a precursor or a sign of some challenges to come for that team. And like you said, I mean, you guys did a really great job, and it reminded me of the old saying, right? Proper planning prevents poor performance. And I feel like that was something that you guys very much did really well at.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. That's definitely something we valued coming in, and you said it perfectly right there. We spent a lot of time planning up front, a lot of time talking through ideas, and then even in the middle of challenges, I think since we have that mother-son bond and we worked together so much, there was never a sense of panic. Even if something didn't go perfectly, maybe we needed to fix something, strengthen something up, maybe something was breaking. There was never a sense of, oh no, we're doomed, because we know that we have each other's back. It was always very a moment of, all right, let's pause. Let's just think about this. Let's talk about it. For instance, after the Brickmasters would come over, and after talking to Amy and Jamie, they would say, all right, maybe don't pursue this, but think about it more this way. Instead of panicking and immediately saying, all right, we got to scrap everything, we would actually stop building for a few minutes and just talk to each other. And again, I don't know if this is ever something that made it to air, but we would actually just put the pieces down and for even just 2 or 3 minutes, just talk about their feedback, write it down and say, all right, this is the direction we're going to go now. We know what they're looking for. Let's keep going.
All right. So I'd like to kind of work. We're kind of already having the conversation, but I'd like to pivot and kind of talk about the whole team dynamic aspect. Especially, I think there's a lot of strengths that you can have of working with somebody like your mom. And you know, in a show like this, there's obviously going to be moments of stress. It's a competition. Kind of talked about how you took some of that judge's feedback into consideration, pencils down, sort of thing. But when those moments of stress or disagreement did come about, how did you handle that?
Yeah, that's a great question. This may not be the answer you're looking for, but my mom and I were very level-headed, very calm. There was never really a big moment of disagreement. I think especially during the build challenges, we I want to say speak lightly and say knew our roles in the sense that my mom and I knew that I was maybe a little bit more so the builder on the team, and she's fantastic at learning, picking up instruction quickly, and knocking out tasks really fast. So in that sense, we didn't really butt heads a lot on ideas. Again, we took a lot of time planning up front. I think probably the biggest thing that I can say about that is that my mom asked a lot of questions of me. Luke, are you sure? Being by far the most asked. I think she may have said that about 30 times during the wedding cake challenge and probably almost that much during the bed challenge as well. But I think just we asked a lot of questions of each other. Instead of saying, no, we shouldn't do that, it was very much just a questioning approach to help understand the other person's reasoning. That actually did make air when we were talking about choosing the bed, in the sense that my mom was again saying, "Are you sure?" And I stepped back and thought about it for a moment, and I made basically a plan in my head about, okay, we're going to use this piece for this. This is how we're going to construct this. We're going to have a frame like this. And so I think the best way we avoided that sort of thing was being very clear in our planning process, but also just asking a lot of questions of each other just to try and understand where the other person was coming from, and then just hopefully have a nice, comfortable conversation about it. But again, maybe not the answer we're going for, but we really kept our cool and didn't butt heads on a lot of things. Again, I think it goes back to having that mother-son connection where we have known each other literally my entire life and worked side by side a lot on a lot of projects around our house, even beyond Lego. We do a ton of yard work, a ton of housework together, where it's just she and I working. And so with all that experience, I think that bode really well for us going into something like Lego Masters.
Well, that definitely, from an audience perspective, was what came across. The ability for you two to work together, at least it appeared from the outside, is you guys were very practiced. It looked like you had really great communication. It was really fun seeing her both, sort of question your thought process on stuff too, but also encourage you, and it felt like it was very mutual, and it really felt like you guys were a really great team, which was really cool to see. And I feel like sometimes when you have either an age disparity or you have like a child and a parent relationship on something like Lego Masters, I think, from an outside perspective, it's easy to think like, oh, well, one of the teammates is kind of carrying the other teammate. And that didn't really feel like that was the case with you and your mom on the show. And so that was just really cool to see. And I just felt like you guys crushed it. So
thank you. It's really nice of you to say. I'm glad it came across that way, because that's the same way we felt, of just having that familial connection and really just knowing each other's strengths, knowing how to talk to each other well and things like that. I mean, it just made the whole process easier. So I appreciate hearing that. Thank you.
Well, and I know you said you didn't think it was the answer we were necessarily looking for. I was just looking for an answer, So and I think it was a really good answer too, because there's just a lot of just lessons about stress that you can take from that anyways, right? Like, don't make the moment too big, right? If I was hearing you correctly, like, hey,
yes,
you're on a Lego competition show. Let's just enjoy that, right? It's question, don't confront, right? There's been times where I've been laser focused on something, and my wife or somebody will be like, "Are you sure that's what you're trying to do?" And I'll be like, "Well, no, that's not what I'm trying to do." And instead of saying like, "Hey, you're being an idiot, don't do that," like, you know, there's a proper way to go about things a lot of times,
Yeah.
right? And a very simple way to do that is to just question. Don't be
Yeah.
confrontational. And I think it speaks words to your, you know, your ability to work as a team. And I think what a lot of people enjoyed watching about watching, you know, with your team dynamic on the show. So
Yeah. Thank you.
did you find, you know, you said you've known your mom your whole life. You know, I've known my mom my whole life as well. She's known me my whole life too. You know, that's how that works. Did you find that your kind of relationship changed, or even kind of that team dynamic that we just outlined kind of changed throughout the course of the competition?
Yeah, I would say it got even stronger, honestly. In the sense that we were very much figuring things out. The first challenge, just in a lot of ways. I mean, in terms of the brick pit, in terms of how we really wanted to build and communicate as a team. And I would say by episode 4 or 5, even, we were really locked in on the way we worked in the Lego Masters setting. Doing a project around the house is a lot different than filming a reality TV show where you're digging through bins of Lego and creating something for Brickmaster to evaluate, and it's against other very talented builders. So we ended up getting in a bit of a groove in terms of, okay, this is our brainstorming process. Now this is how we're going to start. So we'll both make a brick pit run. We'll come back. We'll each start doing tasks. It was always very task oriented as well as what it turned into, in the sense of, for instance, in the Wicked challenge for our big blanket that covered the front of our basket, I said about it. I mean, very shortly into the challenge, I said, "Mom, we got a big blanket to make." And she said, "How many do you need me to make?" I go, "Well, we're going to need a couple hundred of these 2x2 tiles threaded in the net." She goes, "I'll do it." And she runs over to the brick pit and just starts going. And so, in the sense that even our trust in each other, I think, increased as the season went on as well, just in the sense that we could give each other tasks to do and we get them done. Maybe the first challenge was a little bit more of an, okay, let's make sure, let's really work on things together, make sure we're doing our own thing. But I mean, even honestly, in the first episode with our sweet spot of the galaxy build with our gingerbread house, after talking to the Brickmasters, we realized that we needed more Star Wars in our build. And we were talking about it and said, you know what, spaceships are very Star Wars related. And I looked at my mom and I said, "Mom, I need you to build me a spaceship." And she goes, "You know what, Luke? I'm going to build you two." And it was really just that moment that I knew that we were meant to be there together, where it's just that unwavering attitude of positivity and just the can-do sense that I think just continued to grow and expand throughout the rest of the season. And just that comfortability with completing tasks on our own and then rejoining together as a pair to really finish everything off was fantastic.
And I'd like to offer an observation, because you mentioned the episode, the unfortunate episode where you guys had to wish everybody a goodbye.
Spoiler alert.
But the observation I want to add and throw your direction, and feel free to, you know, comment on it however you'd like, is you guys went out swinging. And not only, you know, we saw this because ironically, the previous season, a mother-son team found themselves in the same situation, and with a similar result. But both of you guys, and you guys especially, to the very end, just, I mean, you were hustling, and I would chalk it up to probably bad luck. I'm sure, you know, you had maybe a different take on that potentially, but you guys were you were ambitious. It wasn't that you got to a point where we see some teams where it's just like, hey, we need 3 teams. You're team number 4. Sorry. Like, you just didn't quite make the cut. Like, you guys were just hustling till the very end. And I just wanted to comment on that, because I think that was just tremendously cool to see. And I know the result wasn't the result you wanted, but you know, when I was in high school playing football, the coach said you always go 100% full speed, right? Like, don't, if you miss going full speed. And you guys, you know, very much, you know, flew full speed into that final challenge, and it was just really cool to see.
Thank you so much. And honestly, I don't even think I could say it any better than that, because that's exactly how I feel. The saying "go big or go home." Well, we did both. And honestly, as a team, we wouldn't have had it any other way. I mean, obviously, we would have loved to continue on, just keep going through challenge after challenge. But if there were a way for us to go out, it would have been that. I mean, just like you say, we would not have been satisfied if in that challenge it would have been just you barely missed it. It was a 9.7 versus a 9.6. You both were so close. We just tried to blow it out of the water. And honestly, even though it didn't work, out in the very end, we were incredibly proud of everything we accomplished, not just that episode, but that season as a team. And I think that's the precedent we set for ourselves, even as early as week 1 or week 2, was going big, going motorized, going different than the rest of the pack. And especially when it's down to the final 5 teams there in that episode, we needed to find a way to differentiate ourselves. And with that many talented, very talented builders across our entire season, but especially in that challenge, we knew that picking a regular object, I use air quotes, a regular object, would not have probably cut it for us. And so we decided to go big or go home. Again, we did both, and that really it's not satisfying, but it is almost satisfying in a sense to look back on that and go, you know what, we really gave it our all. We were very, very close to pulling it off. There's a shot in the episode actually of the full bed complete. We still needed to make some adjustments and some final touches, and so that's where things ended up getting shifted and going wrong. And looking back on it, I could talk more about this at some point if you'd like, but there are some things that I think we would have done differently. But in the moment, we felt very confident, we felt very proud, and that's the way we would have wanted to go down, is go down swinging like that.
Well, I think let's talk about that. What are some of those things that you would have done differently?
Yeah. It's something we've thought a lot about, honestly. It's
really
kept me up a couple nights. It's kept me up a couple nights, and honestly, I will preface this answer by saying that for that entire 10-hour challenge, my mom and I were incredibly confident, not overconfident, but confident that we could get it done with the methods that we used. Up until about the last 6 minutes. Then we realized that, things probably could have gone a little differently. And so I can talk through a couple of the technical aspects here. So for one, I spent an hour and a half building a massive Technic frame the size of the bed, using primarily 1x16 bricks and pins, with the entire surface area of the bed, and then a bunch of posts going upwards vertically. An hour and a half spent on that, and the entire thing got scrapped. And so that was a big loss, just in terms of time and morale, just to see that all sitting on the floor. Additionally, the way the sheets were constructed definitely would have been different a second time around. I realized that, especially as we were standing in that room looking at the bed and seeing that checkerboard pattern of the alternating blue squares, I said, well, perfect. We've got the exact 2 Lego colors that we need. We're going to replicate that. And so we did that checkerboard pattern in stacks of 10 2x4 bricks, then with plates locking them together. In retrospect, got hung up a little bit too much on the pattern, and instead probably would have interlocked every single layer and done a striped pattern diagonally instead of that checkerboard quilt pattern. It would have been much stronger. And since that led to our downfall, that would have been a big point of improvement. As well as, since the Technic frame didn't work, we would have just built the brick supports actually straight into the sheets and had them coming straight down to the floor, which ironically is what we ended up scrambling and coming up with in the last 3 or 4 minutes, was just building massive stacks of bricks and just supporting it like that, which ironically ended up being stronger than that massive Technic frame I poured my heart and soul into for the first hour and a half. So definitely, looking back on it, there are things we would have liked to do differently, but it's interesting because in the moment, none of that really came to light. It was more so just in the aftermath about, we should have gone for a striped pattern instead of checkerboard, things like that. But that's one of those things. I mean, hindsight's 2020. It's in the moment, don't always think of everything. Just get really excited when you're carrying a bed out of a room and you're the first team out. I mean, the emotions get the best of you in that sense sometimes. But we had a lot of fun while making the bed. That's for sure.
Hey, West, I noticed something that I really liked about your answer, Luke, and that is, did you hear him say, I would have grabbed a different object?
No.
It was all about the technical. And he's like, well, if we had just done this, and this, and actually we would have pulled it off and we would have won the challenge and we'd probably be having a different conversation right now. I applaud the mentality and I applaud that response. So,
well, not only that, but when it came time to actually do the challenge of the person in the room trying to find the thing that was brick built, it wasn't immediately obvious that the bed, it almost was like so big, it just, it was glossed over, right? And so it was like one of those things where it was like, oh, nobody would try to make a bed out of Lego, and like, nope, they did.
Yeah,
so
exactly. And that didn't even really cross our mind when we grabbed it. But those 2 points about it's so big you'll miss it, and also who in the world would be crazy enough to try something like that? Well, I guess Ann and Luke would. But yeah, those ended up being things that could have potentially definitely saved us, again, had we pulled it off, or had we had those sheets stay together a little bit better. But again, we had a whole lot of fun giving it a try.
Well, and not to really focus on this too much. So the last kind of point I'll say is you guys really nailed the bed frame there. I mean, the frame itself looked fantastic, and I think went a long way towards basically disguising what was there, because it looked extremely realistic, and you guys really got the sculpting on that really down, and I think that really helped you in that challenge immensely.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I will say, after my mom and I talked about it, decided on a bit of a pattern, that was primarily her work. Meanwhile, I was on the floor building the Technic frame, starting on the sheet pattern. So she really knocked that out of the park. I mean, just again, the overall size and scale of it, we were incredibly happy with. It's a shame it was bolted directly to the mattress and the frame of the bed. Otherwise, maybe we just would have taken the headboard. But it was we were very proud, especially about how that aspect turned out. So thank you for your kind words on it.
So we've dove into some of the challenges here. What was something that kind of surprised you, be it about the challenges or just being on the show, or something you just didn't expect as you kind of went through this gambit of Lego challenges?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think a pleasant surprise was just the amount of feedback we got from the Brickmasters. So watching Lego Masters on TV, you really only get to see maybe in an episode a couple minutes of them stopping by a couple different tables. But honestly, during the challenges, they would stop by and talk to us at our table for 5, maybe not quite, but almost 10 minutes sometimes, just in a sense of giving a lot of constructive feedback, both in things we were doing well and also needed to improve. I know I can speak for my mom and I when we say that especially was helpful during the first Star Wars challenge with our gingerbread house.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall what or if anything made it from that conversation of ours with the Brickmasters into the episode, but they gave us some great feedback about having more tension in our build, having more of the Star Wars elements in our build, refocusing our directing our focus to building more storytelling elements as opposed to all these technical motorization potentially details. So that sort of feedback was incredibly helpful. And then also I was surprised as well, again, watching the episodes when the team steps up and they're presenting their build to the Brickmasters. Again, maybe just a couple points of feedback, but again, that same mantra of giving us a lot of feedback in the moment, way more than ever makes air, way more than can ever make air. I mean, you could have an hour-long episode just of all of us standing up there and them telling us all of their feedback about our builds, which, as someone who watched every episode of the show, was a really big and pleasant surprise to know that they cared so much about seeing us succeed that they were willing to devote that much time and energy to analyzing every little bit of our build. I mean, it would be pieces of feedback as big as the scale or as small as, this detail or this color wasn't quite right. And just the fact that these two living Lego legends were giving us that much awesome personalized feedback every single challenge was a huge surprise and a very welcome one at that.
Did Will Arnett provide any? I'm curious because he's obviously there as like the comedian and kind of the funny side and to lighten things up. I mean, he's been doing this now for a while. Like, did he ever come by and provide you feedback of like, hey, like the Brickmasters really like this, or like, or is it always just kind of him, lightening up the mood every time he comes around?
Yeah, it was the vast majority, if not all the time, it was him coming by, cracking jokes, lightening the mood. But to be totally honest, that was probably as helpful as the Brickmasters feedback. I remember there were some challenges where my mom and I were so laser focused, just totally locked in on what we were building. And Will just randomly coming over and checking in and cracking jokes and things like that was exactly the mental break we needed just to, again, get the big picture of what's going on. We're here. We're building for a TV show. We're around all these other great builders and fun people to be around. Let's just try and enjoy it and have some fun, because there will be times where, again, my mom and I are both very competitive people. Naturally, we come from a very competitive family. And so there's always that drive to do our best and to win. But also Will was hilarious. He is even funnier in person than on TV, I'll say. He's incredibly nice, very supportive. He always wanted to see us succeed. He loves Lego himself as well, so that was really cool. And I will say, he's just a little bit naughty. Some of the stuff he says will not ever make air. But those were some of our favorite moments as cast members looking back on it. I know I can't really say too much more than that, but there were some moments that can't be repeated for a family-friendly audience, and honestly, that was some of the best parts of it.
So we need a petition for the Lego Masters After Dark, is what you're saying?
the unedited
Yes,
director's
please.
cut.
Yes, please. You'll have our entire cast signatures for that for sure.
So speaking of moments that didn't make the final cut, were there any that could have made the final cut that you wish did?
Yeah, that's a great question. The funny thing is, I'll first preface this by saying there were moments that did make the final cut that my mom and I don't really remember. Some of my mom's lines where she's holding our sloth and just saying, like, brings me back, like she's pretending she's holding a baby, like maybe me. Like, neither of us remembered that, and it was just one of those moments towards the end of a challenge where you're building for so long and things just start coming out.
Get a little slap
I will
happy.
say one of the moments, like getting a little slap happy, like, whoa, we're almost done with this build. One of the moments I would say that was my favorite from episode 5, the challenge with this is that there was so much great content because it was the head-to-head challenge. And so my mom and I were going up against Nikki and Britton in this challenge in particular. And while Maya and Jamie and John and Justin had their compliment off, or like compliment challenge between each other during the episode, my mom, myself, Nikki, and Britton may or may not have had a full-on dodgeball fight with Lego cats and dogs. They happened to have a whole big pile of them for their build, in the sense that it was raining cats and dogs. And, when you're perched atop a step stool and a Lego cat comes and hits you right in the head, thankfully I'm composed enough to keep my balance and didn't fall off the stool, but some may have gotten tossed back in the other direction. But honestly, just so many crazy moments like that. I will say also my favorite moment that I wasn't sure would make it, that did make it, only because primarily it was just a semblance, a good representation of our season, is the moment during the Batman challenge where I went over and helped Sage and Ian with their mechanisms. Again, not to say, oh, I'm almighty at mechanisms, things like that. It was more so just because that perfectly encapsulated the mindset of the people on our season, that we were all a family and wanted to see each other succeed. And even though it was a time challenge, obviously we're coming down to the wire, there was always moments where people stopped and helped each other. And so, for instance, even in the first challenge, my poor Maya, I don't know how many times my mom asked her, where's this piece? Where's this piece? And Maya was always incredibly generous with her time, just saying, all right, here's where the greenery is, here's where the eyeballs are, things like that. I know Anthony and Joe were always very helpful in that regard. Corey, Rebecca, just everyone was always willing to help each other out. And there were a lot of moments every episode that I think could have and should have made it. And so I'm glad at least 1 or 2 did sneak in there as well. But just, again, how much would I give to see the full uncut challenges, all of Will's dialogue, all of the helpful moments, all the crazy moments? It's just too much to fit into a 1-hour time slot, that's for sure.
Well, I wanted to compliment you on that, because that was such a great, and again, right, like, you're just in the moment, you're doing your thing. But like, what a great, for like the wider audience, and especially like in the United States, and especially today with Instagram and TikTok and all of this, crap going on online, just a really great demonstration of sportsmanship, of somebody needing some help, you just going and offering your hand and helping out Ian and Sage real quick. And yeah, you guys are competing, but you're not so much competing against each other so much as you're trying to create the best build that you can build in the time that you're given, right? So again, hats off to you, Luke, and to your mom for just absolutely giving us like a fantastic example of great teamwork and great sportsmanship, for the wider American and Lego audience. So
thank you, that really means a lot. That's awesome to hear. I appreciate that, and I'm glad it came across that way, because again, that was really the vibe of our entire season, is that we're not really competing against each other. As my mom would say, the word competition comes from the Latin root competere, to strive together. And so it really was less of an us versus them. It was more of a, we all want to see each other at our best, and really just have everyone put out the best build they can. And whatever happens, let's see how it goes from there. So thank you.
Man, I feel like we need to just title this episode like "Life Lessons with the Lego Master," because I feel like this is starting to like go beyond the show at this point. It's just good general advice. So Luke, I think I may know the answer, but I've been surprised before. What was your favorite build?
Ooh. So I have a top 3, but I do have a favorite. The honorable mentions are the wedding cake challenge. Again, having the super tall spire and the pair up challenge there with Maya and Jamie was awesome. Also, honorable mention, the bed. Absolutely love the bed. I thought that was a lot of fun. But I would say for my mom and I, our personal favorite challenge was the Bat Big Rig. Episode
Okay.
6, the Lego Batman challenge. This hit home on a lot of levels. So for one, I'm a huge Batman fan. One of my own creations is, and it got featured in the episode, is the world's first ever life-size, fully operational Lego pinball machine. And it was completely Batman themed. And so one of my favorite personal projects ever is the same theme as a challenge on Lego Master. So immediately I was already incredibly excited. Now, minifigure scale vehicles are certainly not my mom and I's forte, as evidenced by episode 1, in the sense that I said, Mom, we need spaceships. And she said, I've never built a spaceship, but here we go. And so that was a little bit of a loop, definitely pushed us outside of our comfort zone. But the fact that we had so much fun with this challenge and we were building this one for someone besides ourselves, and it got highlighted very nicely in the episode. This build was really dedicated to my grandpa Dave. And on my mom's side of the family, he was a long haul trucker for 20 years, more than 20 years, honestly. And it was awesome just to be in that moment. And it was something that I talked about, our communication and our planning and our brainstorming before, where we would always come up with our own individual ideas. And this is something that we really connected on as a team. Was, let's do a big rig. It fits the Dark Knight era, and it also fits our family and our lineage and what my grandpa Dave loved. And so for some context, again, my grandpa Dave was the biggest supporter of me and my mom in our Lego Masters journey, in the sense that as soon as the first ever trailer for Lego Masters season 1 came out, he called me the day of and said, Luke, you should be on this show. And he called my mom and said, Annie, Luke should be on this show. And my mom said to him, she goes, oh no, Dave, that's really sweet, but he's too young. Those are for masters. Those are for professional builders. He's just not there. And so to see all these years later, and it's unfortunate. We never got the chance to tell Grandpa Dave that we were on Lego Masters. And so by the time we had found out, got the call, and we're even in the process, he had passed by that point. But to be there with my mom and doing a build that was dedicated solely to him, I mean, it was incredible. And not to mention the result. I mean, winning the challenge, winning the golden brick that only a handful of teams in the show's history can say that they've ever done. I mean, it again, lost for words. It was a truly special moment, and something that we will never forget. And I think it would be almost impossible for any build the rest of my life to top that.
Well, I wasn't surprised by the answer itself, but I'm surprised by just the amount of emotion you were able to convey in the answer. And so you definitely got me there. I mean, what a great answer, and what a great build too. I think, from a timing perspective, if you're on the show too, it's kind of like your penultimate episode, right? Because the very next episode, it was the bed episode, and I remember, what was it not, or was there one more in between?
So we used the golden brick the following episode.
Oh, that's right.
I
That's
guess
right.
It was kind of short lived.
I was trying to remember the builds.
But you're exactly right, in the sense that that really was a turning and climactic point, I would say, for us in the season, because again, we were strong episode 1, episode 3, episode 4. Obviously, we had the wedding cake episode 2, and then by episode 5 with the motion challenge, that's when we really, I think, started to hit our stride as a team. We built in a lot of mechanisms in motion in episode 4. Then episode 5 was the motion challenge, and we feel like we crushed that one with the grandfather clock. And then just to keep going big, we had, I would say, probably the biggest build in that entire Batman challenge as well. I mean, the thing barely fit on the display podium up at the front. We were really hitting our stride and finding our own as a team, in the sense that we want to go big, we want to go motorized, we want to go different. And that was a fantastic point for us. So as you put, it was really a climactic moment for us as a team. It was awesome.
And I was just checking, because you guys it was the mask challenge next, correct?
Yes.
And you guys crushed
right.
that one. Oh my gosh. I just wanted to pass that along to you. I mean, the mask that you guys created, it almost looked like something out of Predator to some extent. I mean, it was so cool and just so different from everybody else's. I know you guys felt like you needed to use it. I'm sure at the moment you're like, man, we really didn't need to be. I mean, they mentioned it on the show. They're like, you guys did a really good job, but it was really fun to see. So, yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And again, that was one of the moments where we felt, let's go different. Especially that was down to 6 teams. Like, we need to do something different. The running joke my mom and I say now is that the challenge was called the Masquerade, we stopped listening after mask. And so we just made a mask. And it was very rugged, very industrial. And since my mom was the one modeling, we wanted it to be a powerful female figure, which again was arguably very different than basically all the other teams. And we built it in a very different way than all the other teams as well, in the sense that other people used ball joints and more flexible means. Whereas since I have a Technic background, we had a very rugged Technic frame that was much different than any other team came up with, and that allowed us to get those jagged shapes and that more almost masculine, powerful form, but for a female deity in this case. We had a lot of fun. I mean, with the dreadlocks, the bouncing hair, we had the Spike Prime unit sitting on top of my mom's head with the light up eyes. I mean, just all this crazy stuff. And in a sense, we also don't really regret using the golden brick, because this was the challenge of the season where we had to play or not play the golden brick before the real test, in the sense that we couldn't just look around the room and look at the builds. We also had to then walk the runway. And there was a real chance that if my mom bobbing her head maybe the wrong way, that mask rips apart and we land at the bottom two, we lose the golden brick, maybe we go home. Obviously that didn't happen, but you never know. And just for the record too, that did happen to Ben and Michael, where their mask ended up breaking, and we never want to see that as builders. That was absolutely heart wrenching.
Yeah.
As builders, again, like I mentioned earlier, we want to see each other at our best. And so again, seeing that was a reminder that, hey, that could have been my mom and I. If we didn't play the golden brick, what would we have done? So it was a very fun challenge at the end of the day. Again, very different. We made a mask. Other people did masquerade ball. But we were super happy with the result.
Did I'm going a little off script here, but did you have
Sure.
a competition from Lego Masters that was like your favorite that you wish you could have done from any season?
Ooh, yeah, that's a great question. That's something my mom and I have thought about, and that was definitely something I was thinking about beforehand. So a little bit of a funny story here is that every day we would walk in before a new challenge, after we were all mic'd up and everything, I would say under my breath, so my mom could hear me and anyone who was listening and the producers could hear me, I would go, roller coaster, roller coaster, roller coaster, because season 4 had not finished airing at that point. And so I'm sure everyone was having a field day laughing at me under their breath going, this kid doesn't know what he's asking for. But I would have absolutely loved the roller coaster challenge. And it's a shame it got burned up for season 4, but to be fair, they did a fantastic job. I think every team that challenge was amazing, and Christopher and Robert, especially with their Dragon Dance coach, that's one of my favorite builds that I've ever seen on all of Lego Masters. So I would have absolutely loved a roller coaster challenge. Anything structural would have been a lot of fun too. The bridge challenge from, I believe it was season 1, would have been a lot of fun. The build hanging over the edge of the cliff where you had to extend it as far as possible. Any sort of structural challenge, especially as someone studying engineering, I think would have been a lot of fun. But I did walk in every single day hoping for a roller coaster, only for it to have already been a challenge, which I thought was pretty funny.
What great chat. I mean, absolutely. Just roller coasters are awesome, especially in Lego. And great answer, especially for me putting you on the spot like that. So we kind of talked through the show, talked about the team dynamic leading up to the show. What about after the show now? What have you kind of learned about yourself from being on the competition, and as a builder and even just as a person in general?
Yeah, a lot. And it's been an awesome experience. I mean, we've gotten it in 2 waves essentially as well in our season, in the fact that we filmed it, we had a lot of time between that, then it aired, then there's been a lot of time between that. And I've learned a lot about myself. My mom and I's bond has gotten even closer together. It did not suddenly rift us, making a bed that broke and failed. We came out even stronger, and we love each other even more. We continue to do projects together, albeit still mostly just around the house and yard work and things like that. But as builders, we've grown a lot. People think on Lego Masters, oh, you know it all. We certainly don't. There were things that we needed to work on going into the show, and there's still things that I think we can improve upon afterwards. Some of the learnings we got from the Brickmasters and pieces of advice that they gave us throughout the time have stuck with me. One of it is viewing your build from 3 different perspectives. And forgive me, I can't remember the exact numbers, but you want to view your build from very close, a medium range, and then very far away. So for anything you build, the story should be evident from those 3 different perspectives. So for instance, for our gingerbread house, from a foot away, you want to be able to tell what's going on. Then maybe a couple feet away, and then you want to stand about 10, maybe even 15 or 20 feet back. What can you see from your build? Because obviously you're not going to be able to make out all the details. So things like color, structure, story, those become more apparent from far away. And so obviously being on TV, the camera can get up nice and close, but for the Brickmasters, they view your build from just about every angle. And so especially as someone who's continuing to build and bring things to conventions, things like that, that is a real mindset for even just people walking around to the event is, can they pick out your build from far across the room? And that also leads into another point is, for better or worse, this show reaffirmed that I love building big. I love building big, motorized, mechanized, things that stand out from the crowd. That was something that I think we had as a strength going into the season, but even more so after the fact, just really knowing that my mom and I as builders love to go big. We love to be ambitious. We love to push the limits of what the Lego system is capable of. There were moments on the show where Brickmaster Jamie would come over and say, make sure you test a lot. I don't know if that's possible. The Spire comes to mind. Even our grandfather clock comes to mind where we did it. And so just continuing to push the envelope and just go big, go wild, go different than anyone's ever seen before. Yeah, a lot of awesome learnings and takeaways from the show.
I love it, and I think it's really coming to life, and just our conversation right now too. And I fully expect to see at Brickworld Chicago something 2 Lukes tall, at a minimum here. Maybe a giant roller coaster.
Oh, we'll see what the future holds. We got some big plans.
Oh, awesome. So I've got one last question for you, Luke. We've really enjoyed having you on so far. And I'm going to kind of change up the question a little bit here as we've had our conversation, but not too far from the original intent. If you could redo one challenge, and by that I mean totally change your direction. So because we did talk about, how you wouldn't redo the bed, choosing the bed, but you might redo certain aspects of it so that, you could have won and then won the show. But if you could redo one challenge, take it in a whole new direction than you did, which one would it be and why?
Wow. That's a fantastic question. And I will leave the bet aside, obviously, for this answer. This is, So I think we were very happy with a lot of our challenges, honestly, every result. But at least me personally, probably episode 3, the Sloth Challenge.
Okay,
I think
really?
the story and the humor was great. We loved the idea. I think it was very, very fun. Based on what we know now and what I know now, I won't even necessarily fully speak for my mom on this one because this is something we haven't talked about too much because obviously the bet is what everyone wants to know and ask about. But based on feedback from the Brickmasters, that challenge, and honestly throughout the season, we would have gone with something humorous, but also there are some, this is really interesting. I'll try and, there's a lot of stuff running through my mind because I haven't really thought about this too much, but this is a great question. So for one, we would have tried to use color a little bit differently. So I think this is probably the biggest thing in the sense of going down the waterfall. It was a bit of a gray, dark background, and we had a white and gray with a brown beehive sloth, so I think choosing a little bit more of a vibrant color probably could have worked. But again, it would have had to be a totally different animal. I liked the idea of having something fly out and go everywhere. It didn't happen quite as we had planned. So again, Anthony and Joe really knocked that one out of the park just with their crazy hair and the food and their lion going everywhere. Again, maybe spending a little bit more time engineering it so that it goes down the waterfall a little bit more predictably, just testing a little bit more with the different wheel configuration. That challenge was interesting as a whole because there was a lot more going on than meets the eye in the sense that it's got to roll down the waterfall, it's got to tip over properly, there's got to be some sort of wow effect in slow motion. But I would say just at least off the cuff, maybe that one. The other one maybe that comes to mind is Wicked, but again, we stood out very for having very limited familiarity with Wicked for my mom and I. I think we did a good job capturing the theme. And again, we crushed it in the motion department in that challenge, I would say. So I guess looking back, the Sloth, just based on what we know now with colors, with build planning, with execution, just creating a holistic picture, still going the comedic route and the humorous route, but trying to capture that slow motion moment, using color to our advantage, things like that, because I think that's what worked well for teams that won that challenge.
And one of the things you brought up there that I think is fascinating is thinking about not only the build itself, but like the build in the context of the challenge. Like, I guess I wasn't even thinking of like how the waterfall might mute some of those colors, right? Because it's, kind of on like that grayish rock background and kind of looks jungly. So like, yeah, if you built something that was kind of gray, right, like it would sort of potentially be at risk of being lost in the larger background. So really interesting takeaway from the competition, because not something you'd really think about necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. We were, again, we put a lot of, we put all our eggs in the proverbial basket of story and humor and a fun character. I know I wanted the sloth because, as I said in the episode, when you think of slow motion, you think of sloth. Also, sloth fit that rainforest setting, but that wasn't really how it was being judged. It was going down that waterfall. And again, like you mentioned, yeah, having those colors pop. I think like Sage Neon, again, with that bright green gator with its red boat, again, really popped up against the wall. Anthony Joe with the crazy hair flying all over the place. It's just one of those things, and it's a great reminder for even being in Lego Masters up through episode 3 and beyond. Like, there's always things to learn. There's just always something that slips through the cracks, something like that, and just always something to improve on. Yeah.
It's funny you said the sloth, because to me that was actually one of my favorite builds of yours. But
it's tough to say. I mean, I'm happy to hear that, though. I'm glad you liked it.
Your own self-criticism was true, though. I was kind of like, oh yeah, I guess it could have been maybe a little bit more colorful, and maybe had a bee kind of buzzing around or something. But I think it speaks volumes of your work when you would redo that one, but I'm sitting over here being like, oh, that was actually like one of my top 3 favorite builds of yours. So I think just good job overall. So well, hey Luke, I think we've really enjoyed having you on the show. Want to make sure that you've got time to get back to your studies. So just one last question is, did you have any closing thoughts or anything else you kind of wanted to say before we signed off here on this episode?
Yeah, thank you for asking me. And again, thank you so much for having me. This has been absolutely awesome. The one piece of advice, if you let me share with the viewers,
absolutely.
viewers viewers and listeners of any age, the one thing I always say is keep pursuing your passions while building creativity and sharing it with the world. So for me, my hobby of creativity and Lego is shared with the world, not just on Lego Masters, but also at Lego conventions with my friends and family. So to listeners, whatever your hobby is, continue to pursue that with passion, with a focus on creativity, and share it with the world, because we need more creative people who are willing to share their time, their talent, their treasure. So whatever you enjoy doing, keep doing it, keep bringing something new to the table, keep being creative, and share it with other people, even if it's just a couple of your close friends of your family or a national TV audience, whatever it may be. Just keep doing what you love and bringing joy to the world. Honestly, it's a lot of fun. You'll be surprised.
Well, thank you, Luke. It's been an absolute pleasure, not only watching you on the show, but now having you on the podcast. And I think the Luke you see on the show is the Luke in real life, which is really nice and refreshing to see. Just authenticity, which is what makes the Lego community great. And I'm sure your grandpa Dave would be absolutely proud of the work that you did on the show and who you are as a builder and a person. So I know West and I certainly look forward to seeing what else you do at upcoming shows and posts on your Instagram. So thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Likewise. Yeah, thank you for taking the time. I really, really appreciate those kind words. Been an absolute pleasure as well. Thank you so much.
Brick mail.
All right. Well, big shout out to Luke for joining us on the show, for his success on Lego Masters. I mean, for even just getting on the show, I mean, that alone is a triumph. And then, winning a few of the challenges and just representing himself and the Lego community to the highest standard. Just excellent job. And we enjoyed talking with you. Thank you so much for joining us. But now,
what a fun interview, Grinch. Luke's a stand-up guy.
Yeah. I remember when he first came on the show, when he first was announced, I reached right out. I said, "Hey, we should have you on the podcast." And he said, "Yes." So it's kind of cool to actually watch live. After that, I had somebody to root for. And if you listen to that episode we done on the Lego Masters, I was like, well, I've got somebody I'm rooting for sure. So, but Wes, do you want to take us through the first bit of brick mail?
I will. And Grinch, this is going to be the first and last brick mail for today, because it is a longer brick mail. It's a email we received from Kim, who writes, "Hi, Grinch and West. I love your podcast. I discovered it about a year ago and quickly listened to every episode, and now look forward to each new episode as you are my preferred thing to listen to while I drive. Hopefully safely. I've tried all other Lego podcasts I could find, and none of them are as satisfying as yours. Please don't stop. I know you have busy lives, but an extra few hours of you two discussing anything Lego related once in a while, just so I don't run out, would be welcomed. Lol. LOL. I don't know. Do you say those acronyms these days? Or you just Grinch? What's the appropriate?
I prefer to act everything out. So
I see. Okay. Well, we have a few more paragraphs to go. So, she continues. I got started with Lego about 2.5 years ago at 47 years old, as suggested by my therapist. As an only child and a girl in the late 70s and 80s, I wasn't exposed to Lego at all growing up. I have to say, now that I've discovered it, I'm kind of mad that I wasn't given the chance at a younger age. I needed a creative outlet after I quit making pottery and jewelry when the pandemic hit. I also needed something to help me get out and socialize and make some friends. Once I started, I also discovered the bonus of its calming, de-stressing, almost meditative process of building sets following the instructions. I struggled a bit to find the social aspect, so I found a local Lego play space that wasn't adverse to AFOLs instead of just kids. And I cold messaged anyone local I could find on Lego related Facebook groups until I got a group of 5 to 8 of us who met up a couple of times a month to build together. A year and a half ago, I saw a Facebook post hiring for new bricks and minifigs that was opening up near me. I went in and got hired on the spot, and it's the best job I've ever had in my life by far. I feel so lucky to be able to work with such a fun product and interact with customers who are there because they share a love of Lego too. I basically feel like I'm playing all day at work. Anyway, I finally felt compelled to write to share my thoughts on the aquarium set. It does seem like a weird decision on Lego's part. This coming from someone whose first and only mock was an aquarium before the Creator 3-in-1 set existed. Ironically, I actually just disassembled it because it was gross and dusty and too difficult to clean. They really went too out there with the price point. If they were excited to push the envelope after the positive result from the Creator 3-in-1 set, they should have stopped at around $150 max. Or better yet, maybe they could have made like a multi-set grouping where you could get a base set with a moderate-sized tank and like one cool fish and one cool coral, and then have like 5 to 4, maybe 6 or 7 different add-ons that are each 1 or 2 swimming creatures and some coral or plant life. The base set could be like $75, $80, and the add-on sets $40 to $50. In this scenario, I might have bought 1 or 2 of the add-on sets to either display on their own or add to my mock. And that gift with purchase is bizarre. I don't understand how anyone thought that would help incentivize someone to buy the set. What I think would have been really cool would be like a mini sunken pirate ship or castle build to put in the tank for the fish to enjoy. I was blown away by another listener's comment about their 12-year-old daughter's feelings on mini dolls. I haven't really been drawn to minifigs at all myself, but I definitely don't have any interest in the mini dolls. They don't stop me from buying a friend set that I'm drawn to. However, I do truly love the colorful palette that they use in those sets. The daughter's viewpoint on mini dolls is intriguing and a very valid point. In our bricks and minifigs store, I've witnessed that interest in mini dolls is quite low. We tried plating all the friends' characters in the case alongside minifigs and barely sold any until we finally gave up. The only ones anyone is ever interested in are the Disney and other IP ones, as well as the elves. My 5-year-old granddaughter, however, seems drawn to them more so than minifig when given a choice. She is very into Barbies too, so I think she sees them as more like tiny Barbies and plays with them in the same way. I'm sad she doesn't seem to care to build with me anymore. She really just prefers to play with the things I've built in the same way she'd play with a dollhouse. I might as well share my thoughts on Star Wars too. And Kim, go off.
Just get Star Wars out of the way. That's how I feel about it too.
She writes, I've always been a Star Wars fan since I saw Return of the Jedi in the theater when I was 6.5. My interests generally lie with the good guys and the droids. I'm not into the ships at all, other than the Millennium Falcon. When I first got into Lego, I was super excited to discover such a breadth of Star Wars represented in my new hobby. And then I was very quickly disappointed when I realized it was mostly boring gray ships. I've managed to find a small variety of sets that satisfy my love for Star Wars, like BB-8, a couple of the dioramas, Leia's helmet, the Porg. I haven't gotten into R2D2 yet, partly because I can't decide which version I really want. But working at Bricks and Minifigs, I'm sure a used one will come up someday that I'll get. I was gifted the set of the 3 little droids with the interchangeable costumes. It was a cute, fun little build, but probably not something I would have bought myself. I was also gifted a Darth Vader helmet, and I'm still deciding if I want to build it because an all-black build seems boring, and I'm just not into the bad guys at all. I was excited by the Rebuild the Galaxy line, hoping for more color injected into the theme, but then disappointed when they mostly took my beloved good guys and turned them bad. I was gifted a Yoda set and can't bring myself to build it because it's creepy and boring color-wise. I got the first Grogu set, even though it felt similarly boring. But I just love Grogu so much. Then I was mad when they re-released the one with the pod. That was closer to what I really wanted. However, I also hesitated because it seems a bit high priced for mostly a big all-white build with just a little cuteness. The trash compactor diorama is very cool. I love the movement in it. I love Luke's Jedi training diorama as well, laid out that little scene. I was disappointed with the Endor diorama that it didn't have at least one Ewok. I'm building the Pod Racer one now, and it's a cool build and looks nice. I think all in all, I've been the most satisfied with the dioramas in this theme. Maybe because they capture a whole scene from the movie and it hits my nostalgia best. I wish they could do a better job with the buildable characters. I do love the idea of a C-3PO and R2-D2 that are the right scale together, but they are both really too big for what I'd be able to display. I'm not sure if they could ever do them justice on a smaller scale, but in a perfect world, that's what I'd prefer. And I really prefer all the characters at a smaller scale than what they've released, but not the buildable figure line that exists either. Those just look and feel too much like action figures to me. It works for K2SO because that's actually quite accurate as to what he is. I don't even know if it would be possible to create what I'm craving out of Lego, but that's my dilemma with the whole Star Wars line. It's either too boring color-wise or too big. I definitely plan on building a Millennium Falcon one day. I'd love to have the experience of building the UCS one without owning it, and I plan on choosing the best mid-scale design and collecting all the pieces in a more colorful palette. I'm extremely sad that I wasn't into Lego when the Ewok Village was available. I am about 85% through collecting all of the pieces to build it myself. Just wanted to represent a different viewpoint on Star Wars. I have no idea if there are a bunch of others out there who are similar or if I'm an anomaly. That's it for now. Keep up the great work with the podcast. Thank you, Kim.
West, go on mute, drink some water, take a nap.
Yeah. Need to take a breather.
Look, I know it was long. Kim, thank you for taking the time to even writing it out, first of all. Thank you for even writing in, second of all. West, thank you for sacrificing your vocal cords to read it all. But no, I mean, we always want to highlight people's, thoughts and recognize that not everybody has a podcast to just share their thoughts on, or even somebody to talk to about Lego. So sounds like you've got probably an entire city to talk to working out of Bricks and Minifigures, which is super cool. And definitely interesting to comment on the mini dolls. It would be cool to work at a Bricks and Minifig because you could kind of just, I know it'd be like anecdotally, but like you could kind of just start to pick up some subtle data points, right? Like we can't ever, like mini dolls just sit, even the quote unquote chase ones, right? Whereas Star Wars figures still just fly off the shelves, right? Or whatever. So I think that's
wonder
really,
if
really
regionally things differ. Like maybe mini dolls in the Northeast, this is kind of a silly example, but maybe they go really well. But like in the Southwest, everybody's really into like, I don't know, Aquanauts or something, right? Like
Mixels.
I wonder yeah, exactly. Exoforce.
No, but I like your point. I like your comments on the tropical aquarium kind of got me interested because it got the gears cranking. I got my 2 good neurons left in my brain firing off over here. Because I think it would be interesting. We haven't. I can't remember the last time we saw Lego kind of do a la carte add-on sort of, and I mean at scale set. So
I think Grinch, to answer your question, I think the last time was the Lego Trains line before it kind of folded into City.
I think so. Yeah.
Where they did those
train.
different engines, right? Sizes. There was like the big one, the medium, and the small one. And then you could buy different train cars. And this was, I think, the early 2000s.
Different colors.
Yep. And so you could build quite a big train if you wanted to, right? But you had to buy everything individually. And even the Santa Fe was kind of like that, where they had the locomotive and then they had the train cars. And you could buy, train car set 1, train car set 2. They could each be turned into their own train car set. But if you wanted a big train, you had to just buy them up individually.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about like complementary sets, right? Like, for example, the Infinity Stones, them hiding one Infinity Stone.
Right.
We're talking about a true, like, buy this giant tank, or, fish tank, I should say. Not tank, not M1 Abrams, but, buy a giant tank and then go get your little underwater sunken castle or Colosseum or your coral. And it would be kind of I think the fish tank would be an interesting way to do that, because you could have, hey, here's your little clownfish battle pack. Here's your blue tang battle pack. Here's maybe not a filter. You probably don't need like 6 varieties of filters, but you could do that with fish. And people might just buy the fish. You might have people that just buy those on their own, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And you could see something too, like using just studs as like the sand beneath the aquarium, right? You can go to the Petco or PetSmart and you get variations of like Lego aquarium rocks that you put down, right? Some are very colorful, some are kind of more natural. And you could see Lego just offering like a bag of studs as like, your aquarium rocks for that aquarium build or something. So I think there are so many different things, right, that you could do here. And my mind went the same direction of like, I think Kim's onto something in this a la carte model. It's something we've talked about where it feels like it's a model that Lego, it feels like Lego could do really well with that type of model, especially with the AFOL community, that selling model. I'm curious as to why they're choosing not to do that. I'm sure there's some reason, right? There's some smart people who work at Lego. So I did want to mention, I think the gift with purchase, right, is actually a subtle nod to Finding Nemo with the fish inside of the aquarium filter. I haven't heard a lot of people commenting on that. I believe, right? Lego hasn't come out and said it. Just for me feels like Finding Nemo.
I really hope so, because if not, it's like super morbid, because the only reason that fish would be in there is because he's dead. So for society's sake, I hope Lego is referencing Finding Nemo.
But what's odd with that too, right, is like, if it was a subtle nod to Finding Nemo, why aren't there other nods in the build, right? Obviously, it can't be a complete Finding Nemo aquarium, because then you're just building a Disney set, and that's not what this is. But you could have like a volcano rock instead of the treasure chest. I guess there's a treasure chest in Finding Nemo, but you could kind of pick similar-esque fishes, or one of them could be, the same from Finding Nemo. And I think you can get away with that.
Here's why that gift with purchase is so awful, because it's it would be like if they did a gift with purchase for the fender and it was like the cloth you clean it with, like a polishing cloth. Just like this like ancillary thing that doesn't.
Here's a Lego version of a microfiber towel.
Yeah, here's Nintendo releases an N64 build.
And here's the
here's
spray
the
bottle
9-volt plug adapter that you plug into the wall. Like, I don't know if it was necessary, especially because it honestly kind of just makes it harder to display. Because you could tuck it up against the wall, and now you have to have additional space for something that's already really big.
Yeah, it's an odd inclusion. I feel like you could do a bottle of fish feed or something like, and I know they did that. Yeah.
But the reason they put that little Easter egg in there so people would talk about it and then make people like be like, and you got to think they're trying to like think more like an influencer, my man. Like they just wanted you to have an excuse to make like an Instagram reel about how, have you seen Lego's newest gift with purchase? In the Lego aquarium set, blah, 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 Lego released a gift with purchase that also contains a reference to Finding Nemo.
But nobody's done that. And that's what's funny. I mean, I haven't seen any. I've also been ignoring a lot of the aquarium content. So maybe that's why I haven't seen it. But
I haven't either, but it's going to come. It's going to come.
Yeah, that's funny. No, like you said, I think that's a wonderful way. And like Kim said, that Lego could kind of explore that a la carte model more. And the aquarium does feel like one of those examples that would just really fit the bill. As for the minifigs and the mini doll stuff, right? Like more anecdotal evidence. It was funny because I saw a video just last week from our favorite Portuguese Lego YouTube former Lego employee, Tiago, who said, he also more or less said the same thing. He's like, I don't understand why mini dolls are a thing anymore. And he kind of made the point that we did, which was, if you just put minifigures in this, it would sell really well. And I think we're getting more and more evidence to kind of demonstrate that. And who knows, right? So, which isn't to say that it wasn't important when it came out. I think my thesis is it's outlived its usefulness. The mini doll has, and that's kind of my hot take here. Backed up with a lot of anecdotal evidence that we've collected over the last few weeks.
It just from the feedback. Great listener feedback. Yeah, that's coming, just being like, it's funny because I felt like I was going into that specific episode being too harsh. And I came out of it actually defending the mini doll, which I did. When we plan these episodes, we do our research, we do our planning, right? And you think it's going to go one way, and then you kind of go and execute that plan, and you're kind of like, well, I'm hearing myself say this all out loud now, and so.
Did you ever think you'd be defending the mini doll?
In that, no.
That's okay.
No. All right. Well, thank you, Kim, for writing in. Appreciate it. We are glad that you found Lego eventually, even if it wasn't right away, and are happy you are a part of the community and enjoying it. Thanks for writing in.
Thank you, Kim.
And that is a wrap of another episode of AFOLs Welcome. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you are listening to this show. If you would like to write the podcast, please email us at afolswelcome@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at afolswelcome. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.
See ya.